Keep it going. Welcome, welcome. Hi. Welcome, welcome. Hello, welcome. Is this microphone on?
Yeah.
Excellent. Guys, thank you for joining us. I'm so excited. These guys are excited. We've been listening to the theme song on repeat. I tried to get them to meow with me. No one would meow. Have you heard the meow theme song?
No, I haven't.
I'll send it to you. You're going to love it. I'm not going to sing it, but you're going to love it.
Oh, look forward to it.
Yeah. Welcome. So I know that in the Game of Thrones universe, even if you know something, you're not allowed to tell us.
True.
So I decided this panel, because, well, we're not going to get any answers. The books are, we've caught up. So you guys and I, we're just going to theorize.
Excellent.
We're going to come up with...
We honestly don't know anything. One thing about the cast members in this show, even if you meet them, and we're both from Belfast and would bump into them every so often, or bump into them here, they don't tell you anything.
Yeah.
They're awful. They won't tell you anything at all, so we know absolutely nothing about season 6.
Excellent. So what we're going to do is we're going to, based on zero information, I want that clear to everyone, based on no facts whatsoever, what do you guys think is going to happen? Is Jon Snow alive or dead?
Jon Snow is dead. That is not the... Jon
Well,
Snow
calm down.
is dead. That is not the question.
I'm going to take issue with that. Jon Snow is dead, but he is not necessarily staying dead, I think.
Yes.
Excellent. Again, based on zero concrete information.
Zero.
We have nothing to base this on but our thoughts and the fan theories on the interweb.
No, I can't believe. I mean, Jon Snow, he's too central to the story. He is one of the ones who has the most legitimacy in terms of the throne. They can't possibly kill him off. So I'm convinced that somehow or another, he is going to come back. I think Melisandre will have something to do with that. She's been bloody useless so far. She might as well do something to earn her coin, as far as I'm concerned. So it would be her one good deed. And hopefully she will do that.
Will it make up for what she just did?
To make up for all the terrible negative things that she's done and the way she's screwed poor old stupid Stannis' head. You know.
I don't know about anybody else, but I have been watching Kit Harington's hair. I don't know if anybody else has been watching Kit Harington's hair. I think everybody in the world has been watching Kit Harington's hair. Nobody watches my bloody hair, but
I watch your hair.
Thank you,
it's
darling.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. I conditioned it this morning.
I like it.
But I do honestly believe that Jon Snow is such a vital character. I, for one, would be extraordinarily disappointed if we didn't see Jon come back from the dead in some way. I would be hugely disappointed because he's one of those few characters in Game of Thrones that is... And there he is. Hi, Jon.
Guys, Jon Snow is alive. No. Rumors about his death have been greatly exaggerated. Not only is he alive, what does he know? I trained them well.
Well done. No, I'd be very disappointed if we didn't see Jon come back. I think he's a fabulous character, a fabulous central character in the show.
Yeah.
And as a fan of the show, and I'm a fan of the show, I would be hugely disappointed if they didn't find a way to get him back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also think if you actually go back to the very beginning of the show, it started with the Starks, with Ned, who was the honorable man. And I think somehow or another, if you are to follow through the logic of the story and suppose that it is all going to happen in a natural or real way, it should probably end with the Starks.
Yeah.
And he, for all the fact that for years he's been the illegitimate one, he is probably the true Stark. If it ain't him, here's a little thought for you. What about some of the other Starks? Who's out there still, who might still sort of like be a legitimate contender? We all seem to have forgotten about Bran.
Yeah.
Because Bran went, walkabout last season. Bran's out there still. Bran's the boy who had so much promise before he was pushed out the window. So perhaps there's a story with Bran that none of us knows about yet, or we've been allowed to forget about.
There's
Right.
another one as well, Rickon.
Yeah.
Nobody has seen Rickon Stark. He's probably in the same boat as Gendry, rowing around
Nobody
the
recognizes
world at the
Rickon
minute.
Stark now because he was that size when he started, and now he'll be, grown up, and
Yeah.
none of us will recognize him.
True.
Strictly as fans, not as actors, strictly as fans, not thinking about actors and careers and work, who do you want to kill off next?
Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah, Ramsay
Twice.
Bolton. Yeah, the Boltons generally they're a
Yeah,
bad
all
lot. They deserve to go, yeah. The Boltons deserve to go.
Yeah. And I'm no fan of Ilaria Sand. What do you call her?
Yeah, don't care for the Dorne ones much.
I don't care for the Dorne ones. You
get
can kill
rid of
all them as well.
Yeah, get rid of those women. They're dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely keep them around. They're dangerous women.
Yeah, I'd keep them around too, actually.
Speaking of dangerous
Your
women,
interpretation of dangerous and mine sounds like it's a bit different.
let's talk about Cersei.
Cersei is as a fan, is my favorite character, my favorite female character, certainly. And Lena is probably the one I loved working with the most because she is absolutely wonderful. She is terrific, a brilliant sense of humor. But the reason I think why I like Cersei so much is that over the seasons, whether you like her or whether you dislike her, you're finally beginning to understand why she does what she does. She's living in a very dangerous man's world,
Yeah.
and she is surviving in it, and she is trying to keep her children alive. And I think that any mother out there would understand that. And so I actually have a great deal of sympathy for Cersei. That plus the fact that she delivered my favorite line ever in Game of Thrones to Marjorie Tyrell when she said, "If you call me sister again, I'll have you strangled in your sleep." I just thought that was fantastic.
Well, I actually, from the books, I think the character I hated most was Cersei. I mean, everybody seems to hate Joffrey, and Joffrey is certainly deserving of that.
Okay, good. I was
But-
concerned.
But I have to say, reading the books, the one I really disliked, because I thought she was completely evil and devious and conniving and entirely self-serving, was Cersei. But I think, and it'd be interesting to see other people's opinion on this, I do think that in that respect, the books and the TV have actually had a slightly different take on Cersei. I think the TV is actually more generous to her. The TV gives her more potential for redemption, rather like, Jamie is definitely a character for redemption.
Yeah.
So I think the TV is actually allowing her a bit more scope and perhaps saying, as Ian has said, consider it from her point of view and what she's really trying to do. But certainly in the books, I just thought she was a witch and thought, when is this woman going to get her comeuppance because she deserves it?
Shame.
She will eventually, and she should eventually, but obviously she's a great villain.
Yeah.
So it's always good to keep the villains alive as long as possible. But at some point, she's got to have it.
Yeah.
She's got it.
Absolutely. I know we have fan questions, so I'm going to take it to the fans. Questions within reason for the Ians. I'm heading back there.
There's a fan theory about Jon Snow's parents, and I was just curious about what your take on who Jon Snow's parents are, because you guys said you don't know. So, just what's your take?
I mean, I have a perception of who they are. I think actually most people now have the same perception. Apparently, George, whenever the two guys went to him first saying, look, we want to make this a television series, one of his tests, if you like, for them was, well, tell me who Jon Snow's parents are. And they told him correctly. And because of that, he said, fair enough, you can do it. That's apocryphal. That's what they say.
I think I share just about everybody's opinion as to who's Jon Snow's mother and father are. So I did have a fan come up to me about a month ago and say that she thought that Jon Snow's mother was Cersei. Okay? I didn't think so. I would go with the general theory. R plus L equals J, yeah? That's my own Personal opinion.
Did she explain why she thought that?
No, and I didn't ask.
Okay. I would have been like, how do you figure?
Yeah, I don't think I had enough time. I had to go to the airport and catch a plane, so we could have
Fair
been there
enough.
all night.
We have another fan question.
Hiya. Who do you think is going to sit on the throne in the end of the seasons?
You first.
Well, I mean, I said it already in the panel. There are lots of people who might do it, but at the end of the day, everybody would probably disagree as to who it should be. So the best answer is nobody. And the reason nobody sits in the throne is because we have a nuclear holocaust caused by the dragons. And the whole of Westeros is just decimated. End of story. We don't need to worry about Westeros ever, ever, ever again. Think what a relief it will be after whatever it will be, 7 or 8 years, that no longer do you have to fret about what's happening in Westeros.
Personally speaking, I don't agree with that, and I actually hope it doesn't end like that. The more the seasons have gone on, I don't actually care who sits on the Iron Throne, just so long as Tyrion and Varys are advising them. I want them there at the end to be behind the Iron Throne, and as long as they're there, I'll be happy.
We have another fan question.
More of a question for yourselves. What was the sword training like for yourselves? What sort of schedule was it? Was it very rigorous?
To be honest, it wasn't hugely rigorous. I mean, before we started on... Because, I mean, the irony with Barristan is that he's supposedly the finest sword in Westeros, never had to fight for 4 seasons, simply lived on his reputation. Eventually, he has to fight, and what happens? He bloody well gets killed. Ridiculous. But anyway, at least he had to fight a lot of people, so that's some justification. But what happened with that was, just before we started the filming period, I went in and was taken through a routine by the stunt coordinator with all of the people who were playing harpies, every single one of whom was a stunt person. So, and they'd already worked out this routine, and they already knew their roles in it. So all the stunt people knew what they were doing, and my job was simply to learn my routines to fit in against them. But I knew I could rely on them. Their concern was, would they ever be able to rely on me? And were they ever in danger of getting accidentally swiped by me because I got a bit carried away in the heat of the moment? So you just practice the routines, and it's a bit like learning lines or anything else. It's a muscle memory thing. Learning dance steps. You know, if you do it enough times, you know A goes to B goes to C. You know, if you don't do it enough times, suddenly you've gone to Z and you haven't passed sort of X or Y. You know, so it's just getting used to that leads to that leads to that leads to that, and you get it into your muscle memory, and then it's fine. So probably like every, I don't know, I was working on that, let's say, for a 6-week period. Probably every week for a couple of hours, we'd say, well, let's just do this. Let's just practice this, make sure we've got it, you know, and let's come back to it, you know, in a few days' time and see if it's still there, and let's come back again, you know, and eventually you say, right, we know we can do it, let's do it on camera. And then when you come to do it on camera, we wanted, obviously, the sequence to have some fluidity, but there's 2 parts, really, to that sequence. One is the bit where Barristan is ahead and taking control, and the other is the bit where he actually gets kicked in the side, and from there to the end, he's the one who's on the defensive. So we did it up to the point where he gets kicked in the side first, and we shot that, and then we did the second bit separately. So you're only having to know half of the routine, you know, for that filming section. And then, you know, when they come to shoot it, they actually shoot it both ways, and they shoot it with 4 cameras. 1 on your face, 1 on your upper body, 1 on your full body, 1 on your feet, you know, and they shoot it either side and from both, you know, oblique angles, if you like. So it's well covered, and they've got lots to play with.
For me, unusually enough, I didn't have a sword fight in Game of Thrones. And it was probably the first period drama I've ever done where I didn't have a sword fight. Certainly any other piece I've done where I have had a sword fight has been fantastic. And it's the stunt guys. They're there to make you look good. And it is. It's a dance. And 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps. But the stunt guys are so good that if you get the steps wrong and you accidentally do something, they're ready. They are so good at their job, and every one of them is there for one reason, to make me look good. And it's brilliant.
Thank you. We have another fan question.
You're right. I just wanted to know, what was your favourite scene to shoot?
Well, I was talking earlier about the fact that when I threw the sword at Joffrey, I really enjoyed the scene, but I had a problem with the walkout because my footwear was uncomfortable and my feet were aching. But you know, it's no big deal really, but it buggered me up at the time. But the actual business of, here you little sod, take that, I loved that. You know, I'd love to do that more often, you know. The walkout, I'm not so crazy about that, but there you go.
For me, my favorite scene was Tyrion's trial. But it also was my most embarrassing scene because it took 4 days to shoot that scene. We started on the Monday, we finished on the Thursday. So on the Monday, I could not get a single word out. We had 500 extras behind me, 6 of which I went to school with. And they're all going, I told you, he's rubbish. I told you he was awful. Couldn't get a word out. And I said to the director, Alex Sakharov, I said, look, see by Thursday, my close-up, I'm going to know this backwards. And when I'm 90, I'm going to know this backwards. And I did. Got it in one take. So I was kind of pleased that I redeemed myself. And certainly as a scene, as a spectacle, I thought that scene was fantastic.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hi. So what do you think of the theory according to which Jon Snow comes back as a White Walker?
No, not a chance. That's
No.
my own opinion, not a chance. If he comes back as a White Walker, it defeats the whole purpose of his character. He is good, he is for justice. And if he comes back as a White Walker, that all goes out the window. No, either he comes back as himself or leave him dead. That's my own opinion.
Yeah, I think he'll come back as himself.
Awesome. Although I'd like to see him as a White Walker. And then Melisandre makes him himself. But
Well,
that's
who
just
knows?
me.
It could be a two-step theory in that case. Yeah, fair enough.
Hi. So my question was, we know where your allegiances lie with houses for your characters, but is there any particular house that either of you find yourself in with, basically?
I've always been a fan of the Stark household. And I think if there's any justification, as I said earlier, it should somehow come back to the Starks. I mean, we were intended to identify from the word go with Ned Stark. He was the honourable man, and look what they did to him. So I think if there's any justice, it should come back to them. As far as I'm concerned, the Lannisters, I was about to say we should wipe them all out, but that's actually not fair. Tyrion obviously has to survive because he's the wit and the humour of the piece. Jaime is becoming a good guy. Cersei, as far as I'm concerned, my jury is still out on Cersei.
I, both as an actor and my character and as a fan, I love the Lannisters. I thought they were great. I still do.
Before we wrap up, I have some shipping questions. So, Jaime and Brienne, a lot of people ship Jaime and Brienne. What do you guys think about that relationship?
Oh, by ship, do you mean pair them together?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Is that not a thing in this country, shipping? Okay, it is. Whew, sorry, my bad, American.
Matchmaking then.
Yes,
Right.
right.
Well, I think initially it seemed incredible, implausible, whatever. I think more and more as it goes on, the question is being asked.
Yeah.
Whether something will come of it, who knows? But I think the question is being asked.
Personally speaking, I think it's bad enough, going out with a girl, but going out with a girl who you know will knock your tripe in, no, I wouldn't like that. So I would say no. Definitely not.
I disagree. I feel like that's the kind of girl you want.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but no. I happen to think that I don't think that. I think that love will remain unrequited from Brienne's point of view, because I do think Brienne really genuinely has feelings for Jaime.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to work.
Is there a relationship that you do want to see it happen? Sir Jorah?
No, I don't think that relationship is going to happen, Jorah and Daenerys.
Why do you have to break my heart?
I don't think that's ever going to happen because I think he's just not her type.
I'd like to see
No.
Tyrion fall in love with anybody. And somebody who actually lives and he doesn't kill. I would just like Tyrion to fall in love with somebody.
Yeah, excellent. Before we wrap up, I think we want to do. Nope, we don't have time. Just kidding. Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all
for your
very much
questions.
indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone who tuned in to the MCM Buzz live stage all weekend. We were live all weekend right here, and I had a blast. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm your host, Yell Teagle. I'm online at yell.tv. You should check that out if you have a chance. If not, whatever, you met me here, and that's what matters. Thanks, everybody.